So this is actually my second attempt at making a review for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which I've been back from the cinema for about an hour now, and I just felt that the first review I did wasn't structured very well, just because it's very late. It's 4:15 in the morning here. I spent the last few days battling off the flu, and I think the movie just took its toll on me emotionally and kind of physically as well. So this, for those of you who haven't seen the film, just a quick word of warning: this is going to contain a lot of spoilers straight from the get-go. So if you haven't seen the film, I would advise switching this review off. Because one out of all the things I would say about this film is that it is better to remain unspoiled. Because there are a lot of twists and turns, for better or worse, that happen in this film, and it's something that I think everyone should experience fresh. So from this point on, review starts. Spoilers are incoming. So yeah, The Last Jedi. Massive expectation going into this. Obviously, we're all hoping to see a lot more of Luke. See him train Rey. Learn more about Rey's parentage. See Snoke. Is Kylo going to turn to the light? Is he going to go further towards the dark? The trailers really hyped it up really well. And I'd say up until the last 10 minutes of the film, I was sitting there thinking, this is amazing. And it was simply because I was being carried by adrenaline from everything that was happening on screen. Because there are some really cool moments in this film. But the last 10 minutes and then the hour or so I've had since the film finished, the film has really just soured in my mind a lot. To the point where I think, as a Star Wars film, this was actually quite bad. I would say this film is going to split opinions. Those who are massive into the Star Wars lore, into the Star Wars universe, and would consider themselves fanatics, would probably really, really, really enjoy this film. And rightly so, because it's a very good action film, like a sci-fi action film. Lots of twists, and the fights are good, and the space battles are entertaining. And I think the difference was actually very palpable. I went with my partner Alex and his brother, and they aren't as big Star Wars fans as I am, and they enjoyed the film. And some of the points that I really had a problem with, they didn't necessarily so much have a problem with. There were some elements where we all agreed that they weren't, great. But I think, again, if you are a true Star Wars fanatic, then this film you're probably not going to enjoy. At least not once you've had time to let it all settle in. So, yeah, I mean, I think you would say here, Rian Johnson goes bold, and he goes big. The direction he's trying to take this trilogy in is different and unexpected, but I think ultimately it is the wrong direction. Now, you think about the elements we had coming into this film: the mystery surrounding Supreme Leader Snoke, the mystery surrounding Rey's parentage, the characters who we hadn't seen fully developed, Captain Phasma, flushing out more characters, discovering more about Kylo and what happened with the Luke's Jedi Academy. Why did Luke go into hiding? And one of the things I think that set off alarm bells for a lot of people was Mark Hamill himself early on said that when he first read the script, he fundamentally disagreed with everything about his character. And having come out of the film, I absolutely agree. I fundamentally disagree with everything about Luke's character in this film. I can accept him going into hiding or trying to shut himself off from the world or trying to go back to the roots of the Jedi through the first Jedi Temple. If, again, it had been a case of one of his students turning bad, destroying all of the hard work he put in, maybe has a bit of a mental breakdown, thinks it's not worth it, there's no hope for the galaxy. Okay, I can kind of accept that. But what's revealed in this film is that Luke was the one who sparked Ben Solo's turn to the dark side. He already had the darkness in him, but Luke, the way Luke handled that situation is what caused him to turn and destroy the Academy. And I think that is so out of character for the Luke Skywalker that we know, who appears to have been driven by fear. Fear and I don't even know what to call it, just a moment of madness. This is the same Luke Skywalker who fought through hell and high water to bring Darth Vader back from the dark side, someone who would have thought to have been irredeemable. He refused to fight him, and kill him even with his own life on the line. However, with his own nephew and his top pupil, who hadn't actively turned, he has a moment where he considers killing him. And yes, it may only be a moment, but it's still completely out of whack with Luke's character. The other thing about Luke is he dies. And I fundamentally disagree with that. Not in terms of him dying at some point during this trilogy. You would assume that would have to happen, but at this point in the trilogy, absolutely not. The second film, no. You do not kill off the biggest character in Star Wars during the second film of the trilogy. And if you're just going to do it to bring him back as a Force ghost, what was the point? Seriously, what was the point other than to have a shock and something that you could say, I took a bold decision to kill off Luke Skywalker? It's ridiculous. But there's more problems than just that about this film. I feel like a lot of... one of the main things is the humour. There is far too much humour in this film, for my liking. Star Wars has always had some elements of humour, but at times it felt more like a Marvel movie. The whole intro with Poe and Hux was painful. Where he's saying, I'll hold for Hux. It's just painful. Very, very painful. This is supposed to be a very tense moment where the Resistance is supposed to be trying to escape. And he's there making jokes, and that's supposed to be his character. He's a flyboy, he's a hothead. It's not the right time to do that. I can appreciate some of the humour with BB-8. That's fair enough. He is the comedy relief droid. And he's cool. I like BB-8. This film seems to have cut a lot of loose ends in the wrong way. Rey's parentage. Okay, I don't mind her being, insignificant from, a background where her parents aren't anyone major. But kind of the way it was just dealt with, just sudden. It's just like, your parents were junkers and they just sold you for drink money. It's like, that's not really a good way to do it. Not a good reveal. Snoke. This big mysterious bad guy that we've heard and seen so much about. And, a lot of the anticipation around this film is who is Snoke? What's his backstory? All those people who were like, Snoke's Darth Plagueis. And he dies within half an hour of being on screen. I don't even think he had half an hour screen time. It's ridiculous. It's what was the point of Snoke? It's, if not, he's such a powerful being, and he's just killed off suddenly like that. Again, something that I can see why they wanted to do it, to make Kylo the main bad guy. And one thing I will say is I did appreciate that kind of twist where you think Rey and Kylo are going to work together. Kylo's coming back towards the light, and I think a lot of people kind of expected that before the film started. And actually, it just turns out that it was just the trigger for Kylo to take over. But, I appreciate that. I thought that was a very clever twist. And, again, if that had been done in the final film, I think that could have been a much better way out. I think this film should have been spent developing the backstories of the characters who we've not seen a lot of yet. The Rose and Finn story just seemed a bit unnecessary. It kind of felt a bit forced in there. I don't really know what to say about that. It's other than them getting onto the ship to take out the tracker, which ultimately didn't make a difference in the end. I mean, realistically, what difference did Finn and Rose make? Because they didn't. They basically, Finn killed Captain Phasma. That was it. That's the only thing that they really did this movie. And Phasma is another one I have a point of contention with. A character who I was really hoping would be developed more, was just killed off within minutes of her being on screen. And they tried to play it up like it was such a bigger thing than it was. You know, the whole Phasma versus Finn rivalry just seems so ridiculous in my eyes now, because, you know, literally he was just a stormtrooper that defected. And he beat her. You know, they must have had a combined total of 5 minutes on screen together. I think Phasma will go down as a character possibly more disappointing than Boba Fett. She had the potential to be so good. And you've got Gwendolyn Christie, who's a fantastic actress, and you just threw it down the pan. Again, but people, I think non-Star Wars fans can appreciate the whole setting, the battle, and the triumph of good over evil in that sense. But it just didn't, it just seemed a bit forced, a bit, you know, it didn't need to be in there. I think I'm just feeling a little bit crushed right now because, you know, again, you kill off Luke Skywalker and I don't know how to recover from that because, you know, Star Wars is a big part of, it was a big part of my childhood. It's a big part of, you know, my adulthood. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and Luke Skywalker is centre to all of that. And he's gone. I mean, there were some elements I did like about the film. The Yoda cameo, I thought was very well handled. You know, especially the way they tried to get it back to the Empire Strikes Back version of Yoda. I very much did appreciate that. The Force vision with Luke when he's facing off against Kylo. I mean, firstly, I knew that wasn't Luke really there because one, he looked younger, and two, he had the blue saber, which had just been destroyed moments before. You know, if you want to try and trick your audience a bit better, have him use the green saber. You know, that would make more sense because that saber was presumably still around somewhere. Praetorian Guards, again, just seems to be a gimmick, thrown out the window. Very cool fight scene, don't get me wrong, very cool fight scene, I really liked it, but another idea just thrown out the window. Just like that. A bit like the Knights of Ren. If they were the Knights of Ren, then the Knights of Ren are gone, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to see the Knights of Ren again. Yeah, I mean, Rey in this film, she didn't get a whole lot of training when you think about it. She had some meditation sessions with Luke where she learned about the balance. She swung her stick and the lightsaber around a little bit. But ultimately, she didn't spend the months on Dagobah like Luke did. And we're talking about a matter of a couple of days here at most on Acto that she spent. And for some reason now Luke sees her as a successor to him for the Jedi Order. I don't buy that. I don't buy someone who's only had a few days of training and has an innate ability to be the successor without Luke being there to guide them. But they find themselves in a bind now because with Carrie Fisher passing away, Leia is obviously not going to be involved in the 9th film. We're going to have no original trilogy characters alive during the time of the 9th film, I'm presuming, which is going to be so weird. And I think, again, it was such a wrong decision to kill Luke. Speaking of Leia, the whole Superman thing back into the ship was ridiculous. I don't know where that came from. It was so non-Star Wars that, I mean, people laughed at it. It was ridiculous. And I'm so shocked at what I'm saying here because this time yesterday I was expecting myself to come out saying that was a fantastic film. I loved it. Best Star Wars film ever. Especially after seeing some of the ratings from the early reviewers and the critics. But again, I think that's the difference. A critic, unbiased, looks at the film as a film and not a Star Wars film. And as a Star Wars film, this has so many things wrong with it that I don't know how Disney quite let this go through the net without realizing how much of a shitstorm it's going to cause, because it's not been released in America yet. And there are going to be a lot of people who are upset with this. There's going to be some people who really like it, who are going to appreciate the bold direction it goes in. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be pissed. And I've been looking around at some of the reviewers on YouTube, and a lot of them are really towing the line. I think you can see a lot of them really don't like the film, but they don't want to say, because they fear the backlash of, you know, fans potentially disagreeing with them, or maybe Disney, you know, saying, right, you didn't like our film, we're not going to give you any more, you know, perks to come and watch them early or whatever. But I'm very, very surprised that I'm saying that Star Wars The Last Jedi was not a good Star Wars movie. And again, the more I think about it, the more it just ticks in my mind that way. A lot of wrong decisions were made. Some great action, great fights, some really great moments in the film, which, you know, again, I can go back and look at and go, yeah, that was actually really cool to watch that in the cinema. But the overall feeling walking out of that cinema was one of devastation and emptiness. And that's not how you should feel after the end of a Star Wars film. Even the darkest of Star Wars films, you know, where hope looks like it's gone, shouldn't leave you feeling like that, you know. And I just really fear where the Star Wars universe is heading. It's not in a good place, I don't think. So yeah, I didn't like it. I enjoyed some elements of it. I'm just really bitterly disappointed and, again, devastated for a number of reasons, namely Luke no longer being alive. But a lot of the missed opportunities and a lot of the characters they just seem to have tossed to the side and not bothered about their backstory. You know, these characters that we were expecting to be big characters, or at least be given backstories, just thrown out the window. And it's really disappointing. And I was never expecting in a million years to come out and say that after this film. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there, guys. I'd love to know what you thought of the film. By all means, there is no right or wrong opinion. Let me know what you thought. And, yeah, I'll see you around.